Welcome to day 3 of the Hero Podcast with me, Suppoman, your superhero podcaster. The purpose of these podcasts is hopefully to give you some inspiration of things that you can use and implement in your life, and hopefully channel that inner hero of yours in order to be able to succeed better. In today's video, what we're going to talk about is the power of belief, or the power of faith. Now, belief is something that I definitely have in my life, and is certainly something that I think has helped me through the challenging times. So I've had this belief since very early on in my life, even kind of before, I was 11 years old, that I was put on this earth for a special reason. Now, I think the reason why that was is because my brother, who was born 6 years before I was born, he passed away at the age of 5. He was killed in a tragedy outside of my family home. He was crossing the road and a car hit him. And it was, and he died not long after. He died a few days later, and it hit the family hard. It hit the family hard. I mean, I've got 2 older sisters and an older brother. And Steve, who was my brother who unfortunately got killed, he was the youngest of the 4. And what happened was, after a long period of struggle and grief for my parents, they decided to have another child. And that child was me. And I think I got kind of special treatment growing up and special privileges because of what happened with the tragedy. And my parents, the way they parented was completely different after his death than before his death. Before his death, it was back in the kind of 70s, early 80s, and there was more of a disciplinarian style that parents had. I mean, I think all across the world, not just, in the UK and in my family. But my parents were disciplinarians. And as a result of what happened to Steve, I think that they realised life was too short and their children's lives were too precious to maybe be so hard on them. So when I was growing up, I certainly was treated like I could get away with anything. But it kind of instilled in me a belief that I was here for a reason, that his death, my brother's death, wasn't in vain. So I had this kind of ingrained belief that I was here for a reason, that, that I was here to kind of in some way justify his passing away, and that it can't be for nothing. So from my perspective, I've always had this belief that something will happen in my life, something special, and that I was put here to achieve something which ordinary people could not achieve. That was, I guess, what I was always thinking. And through time, and, going to university and then going into work, I've kind of normalised, I suppose, and thought I'm not necessarily here to save the world or do something incredible or, be some kind of Nobel Peace Prize winner. Those kind of beliefs have gone. However, having said that, I do still have a belief, a strong belief, that I will achieve something significant in my life. And that is a very strong belief of mine. And I'm a very ambitious person, probably one of the most ambitious people I certainly know of, and very driven and very determined person, and quite an impatient person. I've always been someone who tries to get as fast as he can to the end goal. If I want to achieve something, if I want a promotion, or if I want to achieve a certain target with followers or something, then I will try my best to get to that goal as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. So not cheating the system, but basically trying to do things a lot quicker and do things a lot harder so that the results come quicker. And so this belief is something that it's faith, I suppose, is something that I have relied on to get me through the challenging times, because, as you may have heard in day 1's podcast, I have had some times when I've started from 0, and this is one of them. With this podcast, I am starting from 0. And there's a belief in me that I'm going to make something of it. Now with apps, I had the same belief as you saw the other day. I had this belief that my story would replicate the Facebook story and the Instagram story, and I thought that the whole app business would be successful, and I achieved success. But then the success was kind of destroyed because of a stupid thing, really. Because of my server not being able to handle the capacity of my app being at number one, and it destroyed the business. But it has led on to something else. It's led on to Udemy. It's led on to YouTube. And these are two aspects of my life that I love, and I'm trying not to necessarily shortcut or try and go through as quickly as possible. I am trying to do it as effectively as I can, and with a belief that some good will come of it. Now I'm going to talk back to last June. Now last June I had been on Udemy for 2 months, and that's nearly a year ago now. And I just had this belief that something was going to come good over the course of a year. That over the course of a year, things would mature. Okay, and that that things would come good. And when I first started on Udemy, I'm going to go through my revenue report again in a minute. When I started on Udemy, things were very slow. So in my first month on Udemy, I made $53. In May, I made $141. And then going back to June, which was when I had this belief that things would come good as long as I took a leap of faith. When I had this kind of belief things would go right, I was on $137, which was less than May. So really, in April was my starter month. May was a decent month with $144, and then June was $137. And there was a lull in how I was feeling. I was feeling demotivated. The pricing change had just come into force and it didn't seem like it was getting any better. And what happened was that I kind of thought, this is not good news for the future trajectory of my Udemy earnings. So I kind of thought about giving up, because at the end of the day, I've got a family to provide for. I've got a son that I've got to keep secure and have a roof over his head and be able to kind of afford the things for him to have a great life. So I don't want to gamble with that by sticking with something that isn't going to lead to long-term success. So I was struggling in about June, but then I got this faith that said to me, stick with it, Suppoman, stick with it and go for it. Just take a leap of faith. And sometimes the power of belief or the power of faith can take you through the challenging times. And I must admit that at this point here, I was at make or break. And I kind of felt to myself that I owed it to Udemy and to myself to really go for it. Okay, because, I'd only just started and things could change. And I was taking the advice as well of a previous Udemy instructor who said that, the Udemy was basically like a stock market and the price was down, but it will go up. And the time when you put all your chips in and you invest everything is when things are down. And that was something which helped exacerbate my faith. I thought the time is down, the value is down. If the value was up, then maybe I would be priced out and putting my chips in would actually lead to no long-term success. So I thought, right, I've got faith. I took a leap of faith, I suppose. I've got faith that things are going to come good. And if it didn't, then it didn't. Okay, but I had faith and I produced course after course after course. I got all of my knowledge. I learned knowledge. And I put everything into these courses, and I really tried to add as much value to students, as well as trying to make sure that I put all my chips in while the value was down. And then, as I said the other day, in August, Udemy did some kind of magical price policy transformation, And everything kind of went good from that point onwards. I had a terrific last week of April because that was when they implemented the price policy. And then all of a sudden, the trajectory just went up. I mean, if we have a look at the graph, this probably gives a better indication of how things went. It kind of was very low and then it just went up and down, a little bit down, but it was relatively above this $2,000 line. And now, a year later, when I was hoping that everything would come to fruition, you can see what has been achieved. And this is the power of belief and faith. Because if you trust logic, and logic is this powerful and yet at the same time damaging concept, because logic would dictate that when I was down here, that I would think, well, I'm putting, 2 or 3 courses a month. I'm submitting them. They're out for sale. They're not selling. And I'm not getting anywhere with Udemy. And so logic would dictate, well, given how it's going, is it going to stay this way? And are you going to continue to just make a moderate amount of money, not enough at all to cover your monthly expenses? I mean, even at the 789 point, it wasn't. And most people would let logic dictate the decision. But instead, I used faith and I just put all my chips in June, and this was the resultant effect. It just kept going up and staying up, even though, after Black Friday, it just did kind of normalize a bit. But now we're in this position. It's now May 2017. It's the 6th of May today. And we're 6 days in. And I'm over $1,000 on Udemy already. So that's well over $100 a day. Which, in my opinion, is an absolutely incredible scenario, considering that this time last year, I was making $144. I'm making that roughly every day now, whereas it took a whole month to do that. So the power of faith really helped me be able to not make a mistake with leaving Udemy. So faith is this incredible thing, and it's something that you either feel or you don't feel. You've got logic, which you can channel within your brain, the logical part of your brain, and think, should I, shouldn't I? Here's the pros, here's the cons. And then there's the spiritual side of the brain, the side that, that enables you to be able to do things that maybe are outside of the realms of reality and real life. And that it's just something there in your brain that says, yeah, you've got a good feeling about it. There's something feels like it's going to happen. And this reflects my general attitude towards life about feeling something is going to happen. And I didn't think it would be Udemy. I didn't think it would be teaching. Before I did this, I was in a senior management position and I was a sales manager and I was managing staff. And my plan was to be a lawyer. Yeah, that's what I went to university to do, a good university in the UK, to study law and come out and become a barrister. And then I got into a sales role while I was looking for a contract, which in the UK is what happens. You need to get a training contract to go from graduate to solicitor. And so I was looking for a training contract and doing some sales temping, and that was how I got into sales. And then they liked me, and then I moved up in that world. And, I kind of didn't feel, I felt I found my niche in sales. I felt that was my kind of thing. And then I got made redundant and then went into running an apps business and a website business and went into marketing and really enjoyed marketing. And then I thought, marketing is going to be, my life. This is what I'm going to do. And I didn't, for the life of me, think teaching would be what I did. It wasn't what I thought my life was going to end up doing. But I kind of found it. And I found it through, I would say, a saviour in Jerry Banfield and Alan Hill. Both of them were saviours, I think. Jerry Banfield probably the biggest saviour because he really inspired me to take the ultimate plunge and put a course on, because he gave me the inspiration to think that it could be done, that you could put a course on and that it could rank on the first page on the first day that it's approved. Now, it turned out that in the video where I saw that, it was a bug, but it was enough to make me take the plunge. And I didn't expect this is where my life would go, yet it has gone here. And so the belief that something significant will happen has carried me through to this point where something significant has happened. I'm now in a job which I absolutely love, and it's not about the money to me. You know, a lot of when I was growing up, and the way my parents were bringing me up was it was all about the money. You know, become a barrister, you know, get lots of money in the UK, and, you know, you'll be able to aspire to bigger and better things. I mean, in the UK, what happens is that you've got politicians and judges and prime ministers have all studied law at good universities. So, you know, their thinking was that I could aspire to the same kind of grandeur, I suppose. But in my opinion, from a kind of spiritual perspective, I feel like I've got to that position anyway. I feel this position of being able to serve hundreds of thousands of students. You know, at this point on Udemy, I've got 107,000 students. If I just show you here. Here at this very point in time, I've got 107,000 students, and I feel tremendously privileged to be in the position to be able to teach so many and to help and inspire many to achieve their goals online and to achieve their goals with advertising their business. Another thing which really helped me with faith and belief was my YouTube success. So as you can see here on YouTube, I've got 140,000 subscribers. And it took 2 years, 2 full years, to get up to just 10,000. And it was so tough. When I started on YouTube, it was quite possibly one of the toughest times ever, because I kind of felt I'd missed the boat. I'd missed the PewDiePie, Dan TDM, Jenna Marbles boat, where they all got in early and they created huge fan bases of millions of subscribers and made tons of money and all that. And I kind of thought I came to the party yet again too late. I felt at the time, which was, you know, probably around about this time last year. This time last year, I had 2,000 subscribers on my Suppoman channel. And I got to a point where I thought to myself, it never works out. Udemy, I missed the boat. I feel like I'm kind of 4 years too late, or maybe even 2 years too late. YouTube, I'm 5 years too late. Apps, I was 2 years out of date. You know, I should have been around in 2010 and not 2012. With websites, I thought I was, you know, 4 or 5 years, maybe even 10 years out of date of being able to have a profitable website. So I felt I missed the boat again on YouTube, yet the faith that I garnered up this time last year helped me to go from, you know, a couple of thousand subscribers on YouTube to a year later, nearly 140,000 subscribers. A year ago, I had about 3,000 students on Udemy, and now I've got 107,000 students, and I've got a profitable business on Udemy. So without doubt, the power of belief is an incredibly phenomenal thing. You know, belief is something that allows you to find energy and find motivation when logic is telling you that it's not going to happen. And I've heard so many times that I'm not even going to start with how many times I have heard, you're never going to make it, you're never going to achieve what you think you'll achieve, you'll never achieve it. My parents were kind of, I suppose, a bit upset that I never went down the law line, because they'd always imagined I would be a lawyer, and they would come to the courthouse and they would watch me, you know, defend clients or persecute clients, and they thought that I would be that person. And so anything against that perception they had of me, or that projection they had for me, has kind of limited their belief, their belief that I will achieve something, because that was what they saw as being the route to success for me. And I always had other ideas. I never necessarily wanted to be a solicitor or a barrister. I did enjoy the potential to win. That was something that I loved doing and have loved doing all through my life, is winning. And so winning a court case or winning a legal battle is something that has always motivated me with the law side of things. But in this case, they personally didn't have the belief that anything outside of law would work. And they are in their mid to late 60s at the moment. And they are of the opinion that the traditional roles, doctor, dentist, vet, lawyer, are the roles that lead to financial success. They don't have any conception that money leads to success. That they have no conception that working online leads to success. They don't understand that world at all. So even telling them about Udemy, they're kind of like, they don't get it. They see the money and they think, that's pretty good, but they don't get the concept of working online because it's not within their generation to think. But I've always had a belief that something significant will happen, and it's happening with Udemy and with YouTube. And as far as I'm concerned, these are the two areas that I want to continue doing work in for as long as possible. Cumulatively, I've got about 250,000 followers across Udemy and on YouTube. And my ultimate goal will be to teach everybody I can. Everybody. That is my ultimate goal. And on Udemy, I started off with social media growth courses. And now what I'm doing is I'm looking to produce courses that enable me to reach and teach the masses. And that is what I hope to do in my life. So the way I've got to this point, which I find to be a very privileged point, I am so delighted I am on Udemy today. And I'm so delighted that I'm on YouTube as well. I've got 2 YouTube channels, obviously. The other, my 139,000 subscriber channel is what I do, my passion on. And the Suppoman Udemy is an extension of my Udemy business. So in essence, it kind of fits in with Udemy. So I've got Udemy and Udemy YouTube running in one part, and then YouTube doing my passion, which is Minecraft gaming, on another side. So without the power of belief, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be here in front of you right now talking about this. I would probably be if I listened to logic and everybody putting the pros and cons together. If I listened to the logic, then I would probably be employed again by an employer, working in an office, doing something. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I would much rather be here with you today and reaching people through this powerful medium of video. And I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for the power of belief. The power of belief is what helps you through the challenging times, and when that irritating logical voice is telling you you shouldn't do it, weigh up the pros and cons, the statistics aren't on your side. If you've got this belief in your heart and within this side of you which is passionate, if you've got that belief that you think is going to come good, then trust it. Trust it and let it take you somewhere. And I had that belief with apps. It didn't work out. However, what I used to market my apps, I am now putting into my Udemy courses. So it has been a stepping stone to this point. And you never know, my YouTube and Udemy courses may be a stepping stone to something else if this all ends. And I know it could all end. It could all end just like that. It has for other instructors. It has for other YouTubers that have been banned and had everything cancelled. Everything gone from, hero to zero, just like that. And I intend to maintain the path to being a hero. So I hope that this has inspired you with the power of belief and really, hopefully, getting you to trust that voice inside your head, the spiritual side of you, which is made happy by what you're doing, and you just have this belief that something will come good of it if you continue doing it. And something that I've loved about Udemy is that I love doing it. And I've had, ever since I started, had this kind of warm feeling inside that this is what I was meant to do. And I never knew I was meant to do it. through 32 years of my life, I never knew I was meant to be in this position. And then it happened, and since I found Udemy and since I found YouTube, and since things have gone well on those side of things, I could not be professionally happier. So I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast today, and I look forward to seeing you in day 4.